The Justice Department sued North Carolina today over the state's so-called bathroom bill, banning people from using public bathrooms that do not match the gender on their birth certificates. Governor Pratt McCrory fighting back with a lawsuit calling the Justice Department's position a radical reinterpretation of Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. I want to discuss this now with Tricia Cotham, a Democrat who's from North Carolina's House of Representatives, and Roger Severino, director of DeVos, the DeVos Center for Religion and Civil Society at the Heritage Foundation. Good to have both of you on. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
Thank you for having me.
I wanted you to listen to what Attorney General Loretta Lynch said earlier today.
The legislature and the governor placed North Carolina in direct opposition to federal laws prohibiting discrimination on the basis of sex and gender identity. More to the point, they created state-sponsored discrimination against transgender individuals who simply seek to engage in the most private of functions in a place of safety and security, a right taken for granted by most of us.
So, Roger, you've been on before. I know you disagree. You support this bill. Why is that?
First, I have to say I'm very disappointed with my former colleagues at the DOJ's Civil Rights Division. I litigated sex discrimination cases there for 7 years, including one of a landlord who was spying on his tenants while they were showering. So it's simply astounding to see the Department of Justice now say that North Carolina cannot prevent men from having unfettered access to women's showers, locker rooms, and bathrooms. It simply doesn't make any sense, especially when North Carolina already allows accommodations for transgender people and are simply acting to protect the privacy, safety, and modesty of its women and girls. This is politics on DOJ's parts. It's raw ideology, pure and simple.
Tricia, you disagree because you're leading the charge against the North Carolina bill. How did we get here? What did you make of Mr. Severino's comments?
Well, I completely disagree, and I'm from North Carolina, and I know what's been going on the ground here for the last few weeks, and this bill is pure and simple about discrimination, and it is about attacking transgendered and LGBT individuals who are citizens right here in North Carolina, and it's about fear-mongering, and I'm really disappointed to hear Roger's comments once again creating fear and trying to create this hypersensitivity about bathrooms and locker rooms when we know that there's really no evidence about that. There's more endangered of a child being molested at home or somewhere else by someone they know, and so this whole bathroom situation is absolutely ridiculous, and the Republicans really believed that this was going to be their political issue to help them in November. This was their wedge issue, and it has backfired on them at the same time, hurting our economy and hurting North Carolina.
You know, what is your evidence, Roger? Because the people who don't support the bill would say that, you know, your comments about showering, it's a red herring, it's just to rile people up for your position. What's your evidence of that?
Sure, I wrote an article on it on dailysignal.com. You could check it out. Virginia, California, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Maryland all have cases, including Washington as well, where people have abused access to bathrooms and showers and locker rooms, men who shouldn't be in places with women and girls, and have been convicted and arrested. This is a real problem that will actually be furthered if DOJ gets its way and says men will have unfettered access to bathrooms, showers, and locker rooms. There's another way. There can be accommodations, and people who are transgender, who actually change their birth certificates under North Carolina law, will be given access to the bathroom of their choice. And in that way, all interests will be accommodated.
Do you see this as people thinking that you're possibly calling transgender people, saying that transgender people are going to somehow, something untoward is going to happen to someone in that bathroom by bringing that up?
Not at all. I've been very sensitive to that issue to make sure that we're not saying bad things about people who deal with gender dysphoria. What we're saying is there's an other side to the issue. For example, there are women victims of sexual assault who simply will be made uncomfortable and re-traumatized if they see a biological male changing in front of them in a locker room. These voices need to be heard. They need to be appreciated. This is not all one-sided, and North Carolina is responding to a real issue to protect women and girls in their state.
Tricia, the Attorney General compared the bathroom law to Jim Crow laws and says history is on their side. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely, and North Carolina has had a bad past, as everyone knows, and we've made tremendous progress in the last few decades, but now we're going backwards, and this is wrong, and I completely disagree with what Roger just said and find it actually highly offensive. And if we want to talk about women and children being abused, just look at the numerous bills of legislation that the North Carolina Republicans have put forward to attack women and children. But let's talk about real crime and child abuse and sex abuse, which is 81% by someone that the person knows, the victim knows. It's not some stranger in a bathroom, and I can assure you that you've been going to bathrooms with transgendered people for your whole life and you haven't even known it, and you're doing just fine.
The facts do show, Roger, that most children are abused by people they know. 1 in 6 abused by people they know. 1 in 6 children are abused, but most of them are by people they know.
Yes, and they should be protected as well. This law doesn't change that at all. And remember where this came from. This came from the city of Charlotte, forcing businesses to change their policies regarding bathrooms, unilaterally forcing people when it was unnecessary. Target went down this route voluntarily, and you have 1.1 million people pledging to boycott Target because they don't feel their children will be safe in Target stores anymore. Their stock price is tanked as a result. People care about this. It is a popular issue. It's a divisive issue to be sure, but it can be dealt with sensitively, and North Carolina has done just that. It allows transgender people to be accommodated if they really need it, but it also protects women and children in these sensitive areas. Their interests have to be taken into account because their privacy and modesty is at stake.
There are also a number of other businesses too who have pulled out, and those who are threatening to pull out because of this particular law. And you can look at, and those are big companies. The financial impact would be dire to North Carolina. Governor Pat McCrory calls the DOJ's move blatant overreach and is defending his lawsuit. He's saying he is demanding the federal court clarify anti-discrimination laws. Tricia, what's your reaction to that?
I find it just absolutely laughable that he has the audacity to talk about overreach when it was the North Carolina General Assembly that completely inserted itself into the Charlotte Ordinance, which they do have the right to do, but they selectively pick and choose for political reasons to help them coming up in elections. And so to say overreach, that's absolutely ridiculous. He should do his job. He should be the leader of the state. House Bill 2 has been devastating. It's put North Carolina on the national map for something that we don't deserve. It's affecting our economy. And instead of just passing the buck to someone else, let's actually work as leaders together and try to fix this solution. But we're not going to discriminate against people, and that's what they seem to think is the solution. We cannot discriminate against, it doesn't matter what size of a portion of society we're talking about. Discrimination is always wrong.